System review time, and this week we've got the wonderful, rare and quite rubbish Commodore 64GS, the C64 games system. Specifications: the CPU is a MOS Technology 8500, which is a modified 6502 with integrated 8-bit I/O port. Runs at just under 1 MHz. Graphics is MOS Technologies VIC-2, same as appears in the Commodore 64. Resolution of 320 by 200 or 160 by 200. 8 hardware sprites of 24 by 21 pixels each. Sound is the MOS Technologies 8580, the legendary SID chip. It's got 3 voices, ADSR programmable 4 waveform triangle, blah 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 blah. I'm not going into all that, it's boring. Memory, it's got 64K, 0.5K color RAM, I suppose it's referring to video RAM, 20K ROM. Now, basically, this is a Commodore 64 computer with the keyboard and all of the external connectivity type ports ripped out. You've got your joystick ports, your power port, video and RF outputs, and that's it. Everything else has been ripped off. Some brief history then. The C64GS was released in the UK and Europe, I believe, in 1990. It was bundled with a 4-game cartridge containing Fiendish Freddy's Big Top of Fun, International Soccer, Flimbo's Quest and Clacks. Some of these were modified from the tape originals. They had to add some jiggery pokery like memory paging or page swapping something to make them fit into a cartridge that was bigger than 16K. And they do in fact turn out to be superior to the tape versions because you don't have the multi-loading gubbins and annoyances and whatnot. Like the Atari XEGS and Amstrad GX4000s, the C64GS was intended to hop onto the 8-bit console bandwagon to compete with the Master System and the NES, but being released in 1990, it had basically missed the boat. The Mega Drive was on the way in Europe, if not out already, and it was certainly out elsewhere abroad and being, you know, grey imports and the like, so it was a little bit crazy to release it at that time. But the biggest problem with it, and its biggest competitor, was the Commodore 64 computer. People reasoned that for a not completely dissimilar price, they could get a computer that did exactly what this did, and a whole lot more. And it had nothing else to recommend it. The GX4000 had enhanced graphics over the CPC 464. It was basically a CPC Plus. So you had better graphics than the computer most people were using from Amstrad. And the XEGS, well, it was basically an XE with a detachable keyboard. So anything you could do on the Atari 8-bit computer, you could do on the XEGS. This, you couldn't. You couldn't do what you could do on the Commodore 64 computer. And worse, there were very few cartridges specifically programmed for the 64GS. So people reasoned, okay, well, it plays Commodore 64 cartridges, doesn't it? So they bought them. Yes, no keyboard. And they would plug in their cartridge, turn it on, and it would say, press enter to play. Enter button, can you? Yeah, see the enter button there. Screwed, basically, absolutely screwed. So people realised, you know, reading the press, this thing was not a good buy. It was out of date. Couldn't compete with the systems that were just coming out, couldn't compete with the machine it was based on. Basically, it was rubbish, and to buy one would be very silly. So very few people did buy them, which makes it incredibly rare now. Finding these things boxed, fully working with everything is very, very hard to do. I mean, this is not complete. I don't have the original joystick, I don't have the original power supply. They originally came with the same power supply as you would find on the Commodore 64C. This brick, I don't know what this comes from. It's kind of a generic computer power supply. Obviously not the original joystick that came with this. The original joystick, I don't remember who made it, but they were notoriously fragile. So finding a complete 64GS with the original joystick You'd be lucky. But there you go. I'm going to plug this in and show you. Well, you'll see. Okay then, here we have it turned on, and you can see the boot screen. Commodore C64 game system, and it's telling you where the power switch is and that you should switch it off before you plug your cartridge in. Here we have the cartridge that comes with it. We'll turn the system off, plug that in, turn it on, nothing. Bugger. And I have sat and played with this, jiggled it about, cleaned it up, everything I can think of, nothing. And it is the cartridge. And how do I know it is the cartridge? Because I have this. International Soccer for the Commodore 64 computer. So we'll plug that in. Yeah. Now, looking briefly at the instructions, how to make your selections. F1 selects the colour for the team defending. F3 selects the colour for the team defending the right goal. F5S and blah blah blah. Okay. Function keys, anyone? No. No function keys. So, I can't select anything. Yeah, it's a two-player game by default, I believe. Or is it even that? I can't do. Alright, I've got this guy here. Cool. So I can race around like a complete hero. No one is going to come and try and take the ball off me. Because there's no other player. I can't select him. Yay. Oh, and I totally unchallenged, and I managed to miss the goal. I am so great. I'll just grab it and run straight into the goal with it. There you go. That's how to win. Yeah, so obviously it works, but this is all I have for it. A Commodore 64 cartridge, which I can only use two-player, and the pack-in cartridge, which is dead. And that is the big problem with these. You can't play Commodore 64 games on it half the time. I mean, you could sum it up entirely by, it's Commodore 64 without a keyboard, it's rubbish. That's your review. Yeah. Right, while I'm still here, I'll give you a quick look at it, if I can just, yes. Basically, cartridge goes there. Little light there to tell you it's on. Bit of an air vent there. Little Commodore logo. And it is such a simplistic design, the rear end. You know, video port, RF, I don't know what even would have gone there, but there's nothing there. It says L or R, but no. Bit of venting underneath, you can see some shielding inside. Commodore C64GS. Something, something, something. I can't read that, it's in German. Made in West Germany. Yeah. Nothing at all at the other end. Joystick port 1, port 2, on-off switch, power input, and that is it. That is all there is to it. I mean, it is a nice tidy design, I will give it that, and a much tidier design than the Master System which it was trying to compete with. But it's rubbish. Yeah. Thank you for watching. Oh, that's a nice mess down there, isn't it? I've got to sort that out.